So I'm not going to redo the class on consumer behavior, but I want to make a transition between consumer behavior and the next subject, which is going to be pretty short, which is business buyer behavior. So the two are different because consumer behavior is about people and how people think. And so that's called the black box, which is the part that we don't know. The input is what marketers do, is give information to consumers. And the output is how people respond to after they've processed. So it's input, process, output. But there's a few things that we know, and this is called information processing, is how do people process information? So the first stage is they recognize that they have a need, then they look for information, then they evaluate the different choices that they have, then they buy, and then they think about their satisfaction and they tell someone else about their satisfaction, or they are themselves satisfied and they go ahead and buy more from the same company. So you buy from Amazon for the first time, things go well, you buy a second time, a third time, and then eventually you become an Amazon buyer. That makes sense. But you are buying certain things and you're comparing from the different suppliers. You may be going to other um, online stores. And so you're looking for information, you're seeing what other people say. You may be asking a friend, and then you decide that it's enough information. Now you're ready to buy. Need recognition is very important, and it's the first stage. So you will see that as a consumer, that's how you proceed. As a business, when you make the decision to buy, this is the same way that you proceed as well. The difference is uh, it's more structured, it's more formalized. Okay, so business buyer behavior is the B2B format, if you want, versus the B2C, which is business to consumer that we just presented on, I presented on Monday. So businesses are, first, it's higher in dollar value than B2C. It's lower in trade numbers. So the number of exchanges is much greater for consumers, the B2C, because there's many, many more consumers than there are businesses. But in dollar value, actually business is a bigger volume than the consumers, which is something sometimes we don't realize because the because we live in more in the consumer world than we live in the business world, so we can't see always that. It's a little bit the same when I discovered that the largest user of gas and oil in America was not you and I, but it was the military. So then it's like, wow, so the military is the largest users of gas. I would have always thought it was my car and my neighbor's cars, but no, it's military. So it gives you this perspective that businesses is a different scale, and actually for most industries, for most of everything, the businesses are much larger. So when businesses buy, I was saying there is an issue with the fact that it's more formalized because they're buying in order to resell, so they have to really be careful in what they're buying, and they're buying in order to or in order to produce something to resell it. So there's three level of purchases. There's a straight rebuy, which is the one at the bottom here on the slide, which is the simplest one, which is to reorder. So they reissue a purchase order, and this purchase order is exactly the same as before. Or they do a modified rebuy, which is they may be buying what they bought before plus some additional product and maybe some different product, slightly different product from what they were buying before. And then there's the new task buying, which is when they're buying something that is completely different. And therefore, it requires more evaluation and study of the different choices. Any question on this slide? Okay, so like I said, if you have questions, please do not hesitate to interrupt me and ask. So the other thing that makes the transaction with business buyer more complex is the fact that there are many roles in a company, and these roles have different impact on the purchase and the consumption. So obviously you have the person who buys and the person who uses the product, but sometimes the person that buys and uses the same, but there are other not so obvious people. So there is the person that makes a decision. So the person that makes the decision maybe is often the owner of the business, or the person whose role is to be a purchasing agent for a specific category of products. Then you have the influencers. So the influencers may be the people that do the servicing, the maintenance of what will be purchased. They may be influencers in the sense that they have some expertise in what will be purchased. They may be users, but maybe a higher level of users in the sense that they'll be using more these products. So they have higher level of influence. And then there's the gatekeepers. So the gatekeepers here are the people that are going to be part of a committee, and they're going to be making some reviews. They're going to maybe be in the process of the purchasing order. Maybe they are the people that issue the invoice. Maybe they are the people that that you will have to interact at the beginning, because they will be just collecting information. They're not going to make decisions. They don't influence, they just collect information. So you have to make sure that you have a good rapport with them, and that everything that they want and need, that you give it to them. They may be the people that actually make the process, the payment, process the delivery, installation, or all this kind of thing. So all of the different roles that you may find in a business have an impact. And so this impact, you have to evaluate it. So imagine that you're selling to a business as one owner. Obviously, if this business has one owner, this one owner person will operate all of these different roles and functions. But what's interesting is they will be thinking about the different reason and status that someone may have, and thinking about the utility and the benefits of the features of the product that they're buying. So next is, and this is to finish, is the impact of the information processing of business buyers, which is again very similar to the consumer. So what I did is I created then a table that show you both. So what is it that you see first when you see these two table, one next to the other, is that one has more steps. So the business buyer has many more steps because they have responsibility, and there is a level of accountability that you have when you are a business buyer compared to a consumer buyer. The accountability is that you may have a role, you may be paid to make decisions, and the consequences tends to be more serious for making the wrong purchase. So what's interesting is they both start and end the same. So they both start from the fact that you recognize that there's a problem. So you are recognizing that you have a problem in the sense that you're printing and your printer is not printing fast enough or precisely enough. So you need a higher resolution printer as a consumer, and you are going to look for information about higher resolution printers. You're going to try to find one that would be within your price budget, and then you're going to look at the one that has the best price with the best warranty, and then you buy the product. And then if you're satisfied, you will buy product again from that same brand. And the fact that you may have had experience with that brand may help you in also buying the printer. So you have experience with Canon as a photographic equipment, and then you're satisfied with your Canon photographic equipment, it's more likely that then you will be buying this Canon type of printer. Now, for the business buyer, in the same situation, as you recognize there's a problem, but it follows, but it doesn't always follow, but it depends on the impact of the purchase, which means, you know, there's 3 levels of purchases. So if it's a straight rebuy, you will go from problem recognition to the purchase order, to the one before last. If it's a modified rebuy, you will go from problem recognition, you know, a short general description, a short product specification, a short, so it's everything, but in a short way. Versus if you go into a new purchase, a new task, This is when, and if it's a new task that is expensive, then you go into general need description and product specification that are going to be much more detailed. So let's say it's CSUN that needs to be changing their servers for the different college servers. So that's going to be several $1 million. They're going to have a committee and a team and several committees that are going to be made in order to discuss the different needs and then write a very specific product specification that they would want based on the different people from the different groups of with the different stakeholders and the different level of stakeholders, and they're going to write this product specification. Then the supplier search, maybe looking for suppliers that you know, or you can go beyond that, is you could have a proposal solicitation. So the proposal solicitation is only for very large purchases, because it's eventually you may advertise that you're looking to make a purchase, and then people are sort of bidding for this need that you have, offering the different solutions. So that would be the case if you're building a new water, like the government needs a new water desalination plant in Long Beach. And so they are looking for someone that would build this desalination plant. This desalination plant would probably be close to $1 billion. This is going to take several years to build, and it's going to be something used for almost 100 years. So that's a big commitment. This is when you have proposal solicitation. So it's not systematic that all of these apply, but you need for every situation, because there's different level of purchasing, from something very new to something that is a repeat. There is different involvement in what you're purchasing for different companies. If it's one computer versus hundreds and thousands of computers, if you're like IBM and you're reorganizing your organization, or you're the NASA, or you're a large university. So all of these are important. The supplier selection is, again, is this committee that makes the decision, and then you go into continuously repurchasing, because you have something that you've selected, it was a lot of work, and then you schedule when you will be buying again. And then there's a satisfaction review again, like you would have as a consumer at the end, which is the post-purchase behavior, is making sure that what we got is what we wanted, making sure it's working as much as we want, and sort of rank, evaluate the supplier. Any questions? So consumer behavior and business buyer behavior are very similar. So we were just talking about the quiz 25 minutes ago, and the question was, what would be the quiz? So the question here will be, what? So I won't ask you, what is the fifth stage of the business buying behavior, because the fifth stage, it's purely a memory type of thing. And I'm more interesting to ask you a question such as, which general need description is a step that is more likely to be in the information processing of a business, a consumer, or two or more choices. And then you just know, no, general need description is a business. B, business. Okay. Or what are the processes which are shared between consumer buying information process and business buying information process? And I would put what I put, proposal solicitation, no, it's not shared. Order routine specification, no, it's not shared. Product specification, no, it's not shared. And then post-purchase behavior performance review. Yes, that's shared. They both do that. Okay, so that's the kind of quiz questions that you would have. So they're straightforward. You just need to understand the concept and understand why would we want to know the information processing. Why do we want to know this? Is because we have to first understand what makes people recognize there's a need. And how do you make people recognize there's a need? Is by offering something that is perceived as more value and eventually will generate more satisfaction. So what you usually do is you innovate. You come up with a better service, a better good. Or also what you do is you change the point of reference. So people are into safety, and then you see that people are getting to be more interested into something that is about reliability. So now your product is very safe, so you talk about safety. Your product is also very reliable, so now you don't talk about safety anymore, you talk about reliability. So sometimes the change that you offer to the consumer is by having innovation or by pointing at something that they are more interested about now, and then you show that your product has this, and suddenly it makes them realize that that's what they want. So then they look and pay attention to your product, and eventually they see if they really need it, and if they need it, then they see how much it costs and what would they get specifically, and if that's good enough, then they go into buy. So any question on the subjects that I just finished? No. Okay, so now we move into STP. So what happens with STP is it's a really good transition to everything we've done since the beginning of the semester, so since January, and everything that we're going to do after. The STP is the last concept that is discussing overall concept, versus after that, we're going to talk about very applied concept, which are the 4 Ps. So we haven't started talking about the 4 Ps. The product would be what I'll do after the quiz. After that, I'll do pricing. After that, I'll do distribution. And after that, I'll do communication. Until now, we learn about the concept of marketing. So if I go to the end of this, what's inside the quiz 1? So what is marketing? We learn about the marketing strategies. We learn about the environment. So that's the SWOT, SWOT. It's the fact that there's competitors. We learn about research. Now we finish all the things that have to do with purchasing behavior and user behavior. And then we have STP. After this, we'll go into the 4 Ps. So STP is a great transition. Why? Because STP is saying a business exists because it serves a need, and this need has to be a need that exists, and a need that exists is not universal. Not everybody has the same need. There's lots of different needs, and some needs that you want to serve may be more appropriate for you to serve, and some needs may not be as appropriate. It's sort of like not everybody is compatible with everyone. You may have some friends that you get along very well, but maybe all your friends will not get along very well with one another because the compatibility is with you, but not between them. And that's kind of always interesting. So there's different people and we have different needs. So marketing says, therefore, do not try to satisfy all of them, but be very specific to who you want to satisfy the needs. So the 3 stages are segmentation, that's the first stage. Targeting is the second stage, and then positioning is the third stage. Segmentation is essentially saying dividing people. So what's the synonymous word of segmentation is dividing. Dividing people in homogeneous groups that have similar characteristics, which makes them people that would have similar needs. Targeting is the second thing after you do segmenting, which is that now you've divided them, now you group them. And then positioning, anyone knows what is positioning? What do you think that is?
Like, where is your place in the market against your competition?
Okay, that's pretty close. What do you mean by where is your place? So it's something against your competition, but the word place is a little misleading. What do you mean?
Yeah, maybe I mean like against your competition, like where are you like situated? Like, are you better than them? Like, do you think like you're like kind of like in the same situation as them?
I think you have it. The problem is you're not defining what you mean by place, situation. It looks physical,
Yes.
but the thing with positioning is it's not so physical. It's 10% physical and 90% not physical. And
Is
so a
it
lot of
is it how consumers perceive your brand?
so it has to do with the brand, yes. So what's the brand? What is a brand made of? A brand is made of brand equity. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that was what 2 weeks ago. Brand equity. What the heck is brand equity? Do you remember that? To be honest, you 170 students in this class. 170 students know the answer to this, but because we do it all the time. A brand is more than a utility. It's also an image, a reputation. It's what you can use it for. So it's like a meaning. People don't. It, it, you know, I remember when I was in early '90s, my parents um, would with a group of friends, we had a four-wheel drive, and if each family had a four-wheel drive, and each family had a specificity. One person spoke Arabic, one person was a dentist, one person was a mechanic, one person was a cook, one person was a doctor, one person was um, into financing and the money and um, and so we gathered medicine from the community, and then we took this medicine, but we also gathered shoes, and so we had people donating shoes from the local church and from the local Salvation Army and all that. And we took all of this, we put that in the trucks, and half of the truck was things that we were going to give away. And so in 1981, we went in the desert in Libya, Algeria, and Tunisia. And so we went in there and we went to small villages and we gave away the medicine. We helped the people that were having issues with teeth and all that. And we also gave the clothing, the used clothing and the used shoes. It was a great experience because the people were expecting us and they were very happy with whatever we gave them. 1990, we did the same thing. And then 1991, we did the same thing again, but it didn't work so well. Why it didn't work so well is because when we came and we gave them shoes, I remember there was a bunch of kids that were saying, "Where are, where are my Michael Jordan? Where are my Jordan? Where are my Michael Jordan?" And we were like, "Michael Jordan? I can't even afford the Michael Jordan. Why would I, do all of these efforts, come here and give Michael Jordans? It's like, we can't even afford it. No way we can give you new or used Michael Jordans." And so this the same people from the previous year, but they were upset because we could not give them Michael Jordans, and we felt that this was pretty good to bring things. We were essentially paying to be able to help these people, and this was not the older people, this was the younger people. And what we realized is, meantime, between 89 and 90 and 91, they had installed parabolic antennas in those villages, not every houses, just one per village. So that was enough to create a chasm, a paradigm shift in these people's mind, which was that they were watching at the time, the big channel was MTV. So now it's just there's so many channels, but back then you were in the north of Africa in a village, you had MTV that changed your life. Uh, those people, they didn't all have shoes, and if they had shoes, they were no brand shoes. And we were bringing pretty good brand shoes, but they were just Nike and Adidas, not Michael Air Jordan. But when they were watching the MTV, they could see commercials after commercials about those very fancy shoes, which they were sort of advertising to the people from, I guess, Western Europe. And so they felt that we were giving them a short change by not giving them those Michael Air Jordan. That's what brand equity is. It's a difference between a shoe, a Nike shoe, and a Michael Air Jordan Nike shoe. There is different equity and there is different positioning. And the positioning is therefore the meaning that those brands have in people's mind. It has no meaning in your mind, it's really not worth that much. It has a big meaning in your mind, it is worth much more. So suddenly people are very affected by what they think they know or what they know. Okay.
Professor, is it like meeting someone's expectation?
Uh,
In a way?
well, there is a connection, but what it is positioning is creating the right image for what people want to hear. So it's like if you the positioning of Vance is, let's say, value versus the positioning of Ralph's, it's quality, versus the positioning of Gilson, it's exclusive, versus the positioning of Trader Joe's is good deal, versus the positioning of Albertson, it's diversity. So every brand has one word or more, which is attached to it. And in brand equity, it's called brand association. It's like the second um, element of brand equity. It's this word that is associated with the brand, what it means, what it stands for. Why would anyone care? Because of that image, because of that brand identity, the key brand identity, the one single reputation that the brand has. So you do it in this order, which is that you divide people and then you group people that you want to go after. So let's say I want to sell a perfume. So then I segment people. So I say, okay, there's the old people, the young people, the woman on one side, the man on the other side. There is the educated people, not educated. There's the wealthy people, not so wealthy people. So then my segmentation characteristic is age, income, social class, gender, education. And so I use that in order to divide people. That's what, when I do that, I do segmentation. When then I decide to target is I'm going to say, okay, so I'm going to take men and women who are educated, high social class, with high income. Just that. That becomes my target. So to define a grouping of characteristics based on a reasoning behind it, which is that my perfume, instead of being $49.99 like the average perfume, is going to be $149.99. So I have to really focus on the group that makes sense. My positioning here will be either to say it's it's quality perfume, but quality perfume doesn't mean anything. So I have to define what do I mean by quality, and at that time I would say I'm going to pick for perfume. What could I pick? I'm going to say it's not available everywhere, and you can only buy it if you belong to a specific group of people. So I'm going to look for people who what? People who fly in first class. So you can only buy it from first class duty free or something like that. So people who fly first class, they will know there's this perfume that if you go fly first class, you can buy it. Or someone who flies first class was able to buy it. And therefore, if someone offers you this perfume or someone sees that you're using that perfume, means that you fly first class. And therefore, that's going to make everybody say, wow, How did they do that? Must be flying first class or whatever. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, Professor. Thank you.
Okay, great. So you have to STP is a key competitive element. The world that we live in is made of successful businesses, and there's many reasons to be successful, but not too many. It's not like there's 100. I would say there's 10 reasons to be successful. And one of these 10 reasons, it's like there's more than 10 pages in a textbook, or 10 is still a small number. One of these 10 reasons is for sure STP. So you can look at any market, even very competitive markets like cola soda drinks. If you want to be competitive in the cola soda drinks, any market, the most competitive one, you can use STP and still succeed. It's this idea that you can look at the market again and see the people and look at the people from a different angle and bring and focus on a specific group of people. So STP says that you have to use the different characteristics of consumers. So we just finished the consumer behavior subject, so I won't go back into a lot of details on it, but consumer behavior says that therefore there's several things that define the consumers: the cultural, social, personal, psychological, and all of these different characteristics are what you use in order to segment. So how could I segment Califia Farms? You could segment Califia Farms based on social class. You could segment, divide Califia Farms consumers based on learning, family, status. All of these are characteristics of segmentation. But not only, you also have geographic. So you could say Califia Farms consumer are not all the same everywhere in the US, depending on the state, depending on their age, depending on their gender, depending if they're married, not married, their income, and so forth. But also depending on their personality and what kind of lifestyle do they have. So you could say, you know what? Why don't we make a Califia Farm product for people who do yoga? And it's like you go, why not? But why would we want to do that? We want to do that because the yoga people, if you look at all the people, who cares the most about lactose intolerance is the yoga people. Are you kidding me? Yes, that's the yoga people we found. We found that more educated people care more than less educated. Richer cares more than less than educated. But that is something that people who do almond milk and non-dairy products, they all know. That I'm telling you something everybody knows. But something that nobody's talking about and doing right now is, of all of these people, the people that like yoga are the one that likes it even more so. And why is yoga people? Because yoga people do this, one, do this, two, do this, three. And then you go, wow, that's brilliant. So you're doing STP using characteristic, which is a lifestyle and hobby and sport, and you picked on yoga, yeah, and yoga becomes your target. Yes, so we're going to do a specific product for yoga people because they have that characteristics and that second character and that third, and they're looking for this and this and that, and everything they get from everybody is good, but it's missing that one thing that really speaks highly to them, not to the other people. They don't care that much, a little bit, but the yoga people, like you say, this product like has zinc and I don't know what else, and suddenly the light bulb goes boom in their head, and they go, "Wow, that's my product. I gotta have it right now. I can't live another minute without it." And once you do this, you will see that all the businesses that exist in this world, that's how they function, is they have this one thing that they found to that one group of people, that's what they want. Obviously, you could start this way. You don't want to stay this way because otherwise you become too niche and too focused. But eventually what these yoga people do in this, they are this snowball that starts and it grows into bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you can be almost mainstream with this product. But you have to start somewhere, okay? So hybrid segmentation is when you combine elements. So segmentation is great because you can combine. So you could say yoga people, but then you go, you know what? Not all yoga people. We're going to do women yoga people. And we're going to start in New York. Wow. So it's like geographic, gender, and lifestyle. Yeah, you can do that. It's okay. The problem of segmenting, adding more and more characteristics is that this group of people, this target, is becoming smaller and smaller. And so there's not too many businesses that like to be so dedicated. So it's like yoga people, women that live in New York and who have had more than 3 kids. So it's like the pool becoming smaller, and who drive and who owns a Porsche. It's like, why? And so the more you segment, the more you focus on a specific group of people, to the point that you can end up with one person at the end. How can you dissatisfy one person? It's like when you're cooking for you, cooking for you. You're cooking for you and another person, another person. You know this other person what they want. That's fine. But now you're cooking for 1,000 people. It's very likely there's someone that doesn't like what you're cooking because you have 1,000 people, right? So obviously you have to think about the target being either too small or too big. So there's characteristics of a good segment. A good segment is measurable. So if you say we're only going to sell this almond milk, so it's like a special almond milk with zinc. If let's say zinc is the thing that those yoga people want, with zinc, and it's going to be for yoga people. So then you can find out how many people do yoga in California, and it's not something that is unknown by anyone. There's data that you can have access to, and there's a specific number of them. It's accessible, which means that these people are sort of concentrated. It's not like there's one person in every city in America, and that's sort of more difficult. You could do it, but it's more difficult. You would want them to be accessible. Substantial is the idea that the more you segment, is you become micro, you're developing micro segments, and if you develop micro segment, then it's too small. So it needs to be big enough because you want to be able to grow a business, because it's going to be an investment into a sizable group of segments. It's differential, which means that you don't divide people thinking that because you've divided them, they're going to be different. So it's like you go to say, okay, we're going to go after yoga people because they love zinc, and we're going to go and create one almond milk for the yoga men and one almond milk for the yoga women. And then you go, what's the difference between the two? There's not really. I mean, they both. If you say zinc, it boom, the light bulb, they want it, but there's no real difference. So why do you segment them? You're dividing people, but there's no actually differences. Dividing people doesn't make it better. Is you have to divide people with characteristics that divide them. That makes a difference. It's like me saying, I'm going to divide this class. One Monday I'm going to do the men, and Wednesday I'm going to do the women teach. Why would you divide it that way? Is there a difference how a woman understands you versus a man, and that you have to make an adaptation? There's no difference. So why did you use that characteristic of gender? Well, because I was trying to divide. Yeah, but divide in a way that makes sense. Why don't you divide by having the people that really care of marketing? That's Monday. And the people that really think this is boring and they just gotta have it because they want to get it over with. And that's on Wednesday. I will teach a very different way if I was to do that. Okay. So differential means there's a difference between these people, and therefore you do a division based on those differences, and they are meaningful differences, not theoretical differences. Actionable means that you're gonna be able, once you come up with that product for that different consumer, when you do that, you can see it's obvious that this is something that they wanted, and now the product works for them, and they will respond almost immediately to this new product for their characteristic of segmentation. So these 5 characteristics are really the characteristics that you use in order to see the value of your segment. So targeting is connected to this, is the second step, which is not to identify those segments and start grouping them. When you group them, you want to make sure that there's, again, enough of those targets that eventually these people are going to be ready and really respond, and your competitors won't be as better, you're better than your competitors in setting yourself up to respond to them, and that you can have the resources in order to respond to them as well. You wouldn't want to be daydreaming. So targeting has three methods. So they're called the targeting strategies, but really they are not strategies, but that's the term that is used in the industry. It's more of a method. So the first method is called target undifferentiating. And so it's an undifferentiated method of targeting where you decide that essentially there's not enough differences between the people that you would want to make a product which would be different. So it's like you imagine the gas at the gas station. So you go to the gas station right now. How many type of gas do you find? You find the 87, the 90, and the 91. Imagine that people didn't care, and they essentially said, you know what, it's gas is gas. Why do you give me three choices just to skim more money? Doesn't have to be. I just need one type of gas. You could imagine there's more type than three. There could be six types. They decided to do six, to do three. Why they have three? Because essentially they have the C here, differentiated marketing strategies, is they find there's three targets for gas in America, three type of gas, and we want them to buy the most expensive one. So they figure people come either with a very new car. So if you have a new car, people put 91. As the car gets older, they start putting the 90 and the 87. If someone comes with a car that they bought used, maybe they put the 90. If it is a car it was given to them, they'll put the 87. So they know this. Depending, you're a student, maybe you put 87, and you're someone who's very successful, you put the 91. You don't even know why. You just do that because you figure I'm worth 87 or my car is worth 91. The reality is you have to be an engineer to see the difference and to really understand the difference, or you have to be someone who actually does drag racing to understand the difference. The difference is in people's head, but it's okay. I mean, if you're in business, is to make money, so you may as well make more money, and therefore you create those categories. So undifferentiated is one gas for all, differentiated is one gas for each target, and concentrated is there's one product for multiple targets. So when it comes to the gas, it looks like it's differentiated, but it's possible that 91 is differentiated, the gas 91, versus the 90 octane is a concentrated, where they actually know that there's three groups of people that buy this product. So they essentially have to decide what is the product for who. Is it covering one specific group? Is it covering 2, 3, 4 specific group? Or is it one product that covers everyone? Do you have any questions? Hello?
Yeah, I
Yes.
do. So the undifferentiated marketing,
Yes.
it's like, mm, it's like one company for one market, you said?
No. So it's like Coca-Cola saying, you know what? Coca-Cola is for everybody.
Oh, okay. All right.
Versus concentrated, as it would say, Coca-Cola is for young boys, older lady, and rich people. Undifferentiated, they would say, no, we have Coca-Cola Diet, which is for the old lady, Coca-Cola Spice, which is for the young girl, Coca-Cola Vanilla, which is for the educated, rich men between 25 and 32. Coca-Cola, what else could I tell you? Without bubble, it's for the older men over 70. So they create one product for each group, one Coke. So that would be the differentiated. Concentrated is one product for a group of targets, and undifferentiated is one product for all.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Professor.
So you're welcome. Imagine you are what are other example? It's like you like an airline company. You know, like Spirit Airlines. It's for everybody. I know we don't fly as much, but they used to be Spirit Airlines. I don't know how they're doing. And so it's a no frill. Everyone can fly Spirit Airlines. Then concentrated strategy. It's I don't know, United Airlines. It's for business people, for young travelers, and for families. Three groups of people mostly that they focus on. And then differentiated, it would be Midwest Express. It's like let's say it belongs to United Airlines, but Midwest Express is an airline that is just for business people, and that's the brand that they use, just for business people. So when you have a business which is starting, if you have a small business, the most appropriate targeting strategy is to focus on a specific, to have one product, focus on a specific target. When usually you have a small business, you have less resources and you don't make one product for everybody. You make one product for one specific group of people. The As you do this, then you get successful, and then you make another product for another group of people. Let's say that's your second product. And then your third product is again one product for a specific group of people. And then your fourth product maybe is one product for several people. You start becoming more mainstream. When you start a business, you have to start with something that is better than everything that exists. You have to really position yourself as being better, but you can only be better for fewer people because you have less resources. And as you become better for fewer people and covering more specific people, your market share starts expanding. And as your market share starts expanding, you start having more products that are concentrated, which means that they don't focus just on a more narrow group of people. They start focusing on more and more people. But then someone is going to enter the market, a smaller company with more innovative ideas, like a startup, for a very small, specific group of people. And then either you buy them or they start becoming more specific, more successful, and then they become a direct competitor. So this is the ecology. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's the average ecology of 5 to 10 years that business are going into where they compete. Is when you compete, I'm not saying 100% of the time, but I would say 70% of the time, you're much better off finding a group that you can satisfy better and build from that. This is your seed. This is your the center of your snowball effect that you're building. You're starting with the center. When you start with a snowball, is you take just a little bit of snow, maybe a stone, and you make a small little ball. And then you roll that small little ball, and as you roll it, it picks the snow and it becomes bigger. So that's the idea of business: is you go and do a specific target, and then you roll it and you start adding more target to it by doing concentrated. Any questions? So when we when several times at System we worked for different companies, and including some breakfast cereal company, and we found that it was very important when you had a breakfast cereal to have a little icon, usually a cartoon character. So our client wanted to go from a breakfast cereal for everyone, families, kids, adults, and it was a generic presentation. And then he said, how can I go after the kids? And so quickly we could see that one characteristic to sell for the kids was to have a little character. And so we created little characters that we added to the breakfast cereal for the kids to want to eat this breakfast cereal. The kids didn't really buy or want breakfast cereal, because of the cereal in itself, or even worse, the nutritional value of the cereal, is they essentially wanted the cereal based on the look of the packaging and how much did they like the character, number one. And number two is the shape of the breakfast cereal. And to some extent, the color of the breakfast cereal. So more the shape was fun and more it was colorful, the more the kids would want the product. But if there was no cartoon character, it was almost impossible for that breakfast cereal to succeed. So that cartoon character becomes part of the image of why they'll buy the product, and it becomes what we call the positioning. Okay, so positioning is the way the product is defined by consumers on these attributes which are important, the place that it takes in people's mind in relation to competitors. So the first person that was talking was saying it's the place. And that's why I was asking, what do you mean the place? It's actually the place in people's mind. So it's not the place on the shelf, the positioning. It's the place as how do they see that product, that brand to be. So it is very important to identify that. When you talk about positioning, you talk about tools to identify the positioning, and there's two tools. There's the perceptual map and the positioning map. There are two maps that are exactly the same, so I show you one. This could be a perceptual map, or it could be a positioning map. They look the same. The difference between positioning map and perceptual map is that the positioning map is the map as the marketer sees the map. So the marketer sees the Marriott to be in those different square. That's what the marketer sees. That's in a way what the marketers wish. So the people, the business people, what they wish for their business to be. The perceptual map, in comparison, is a more valid, a more authentic map, because it's the perception in the mind of the consumers, in the place of their brain of the consumers. So one is the brain of the marketer versus the other one is the brain of the consumer. So positioning map is the brain of the marketer, perceptual map is the brain of the consumer. That's why I said that the brain of the consumer is the true map, because it's the consumer that decides where do you fit, and not the marketer. The marketer is just the wish. We want to be here. And the consumer, they see you maybe somewhere else. And therefore, that shows there's a problem between what you want to be, the owner of the company wants to be, versus what the consumer sees you. Okay, so to explain positioning, here I have two attributes which are very, 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 very good to teach positioning and to explain what positioning is. But they are very, 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 very bad to use in the industry. So do not use these if you have a company, but use them if you're trying to explain someone else what is positioning, because they are easy to understand. So they are price and quality. So if I use the two attributes of price and quality, I can put the position of those various hotels. Those various hotels, they also do what I was saying before, where they are covering different targets, different segments. The Marriott Marquis is for the top executives versus the Marriott Me is for middle manager, the Courtyard is for salespeople, and the Fairfield Inn is for vacationers. So different targets, different positioning, higher quality, lower quality, higher price, lower price. Okay, so if you do price and quality, it's easy to use that, but price and quality doesn't mean anything, because what is a quality hotel? Anyone knows what's a quality hotel? So
Caesar's Palace.
So Caesar's Palace is a quality hotel. Why is it a quality hotel? How do people perceive a quality hotel? What attributes people use?
Like, uh, well, this is from Las Vegas, you know, and everything's so high end, you know.
So like it's like the luxury design, landscape, amenities. So
Yeah.
it's the amount of comfort. So the amount of luxury. So you're right. So you could say a quality hotel depends on how much luxury does it have. Another person could say a quality hotel depends on how much services does it have. A quality hotel depends on how big is the room. A quality hotel, another person says, a quality hotel depends on how comfortable is the bed. Another person says a quality hotel depends on how clean is the room. Okay, so you can see that there's different perception of the attributes for different people. One person is the quality, the other person is the size of the room, right? What's interesting is when you ask people, and you ask this to 10,000 people, you find that the highest characteristics is the smell. They see quality hotel is the smell. Does it smell good? Does it smell bad? Okay, so that's why you could not say, so you could say it could be price and size of the room, price, quantity of luxury, price, smell, plus smell, minus smell, right? But you could not use quality because quality is too vague. And when you position your business, one of the big problems is you cannot be vague. You have to be precise because the consumers, you could be vague 100 years ago. 100 years ago, business was not very sophisticated. Consumers were not sophisticated. They just wanted quality and price. But in 2021, using these characteristics does not separate you from your competitors. Is you have to be more specific about what you mean by quality. If I tell you I drive a quality car, it doesn't mean anything. If I tell you I drive a car that has good safety, it's more specific. If I tell you I drive a car that has high performance, it's more specific. You see what I'm saying? So you have to be specific in today's age, and that's what is difficult about positioning. In fact, positioning is probably the most difficult part of marketing of all the subjects. So you take the thick textbook that you had to purchase for this class. Of all of what's written in that textbook, the 600 pages textbook, the most complicated factor is probably positioning. And what's complicated about it? In a summary, what's complicated is you have to identify the characteristics of positioning. And these characteristics of positioning are not going to be the one that the company wants to be most of the time. They should be the one that the targets wants you to have. So you have to have S, T, and then P. This is the best way, which is we are what consumer wants. We are not going to force consumers to want what we are. If you force the consumers to want what you are, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you identify what people want and then you create yourself in the way they want it, genuinely, and then you tell them that you have it, then you're successful. Here's a perceptual map. So perceptual map is as seen by the consumers of different brands of cars. And it's based on, is it practical? Is it classy? Is it goes for old people? Does it go for young people? And then you put the brand, or the consumer put the brand in different places. Here is an ad, and it says, make a bold gesture to every driver on the road. So here the positioning is ego needs. You want them to see you and recognize you. Here, the positioning is, pass it on, or a car with a lady with lots of hobbies, riding a horse and decorating, skiing. All of this tells you about the social class. So here are the 6 steps of STP. 1 is what are the characteristics. 2, divide people based on the characteristics. 3, start grouping people, because 3 and 4 is targeting. And you group people, and then you select the target. And then 5 and 6 is positioning, is identify the attributes that these targets wants to hear, and then analyze these attributes and compare them with your competitors. At the end, when you do positioning, is you want to have only 1 or 2 positioning. 3 is the maximum you can have. When CSUN asked this class, the client in 2007, we had a client. Now we have a client, Califia Farms. I always have a client. In 2007, it was the president of CSUN that asked us to be the client. So CSUN was the project. And at that time, I asked them to give me some information, and they gave me a marketing plan, which had a STP inside that was talking about the target and all this. But they also had a positioning. You know how many characteristics of positioning they had? 1, 2, or 3? No, they had 17. So they were saying, CSUN is intelligent, clever, smart, good value, affordable, reachable, they had 17. It's impossible to have 17 positioning. It would be like, trying to do online dating, and this person would have a list of 30 strengths, and essentially this person would be Superman. If someone is saying that they have 17 strengths, they are bragging. And if they are bragging, therefore unrealistic. And if they're unrealistic, nobody's going to believe them. So it's the same thing. Positioning has to be believable, and you cannot pretend to be more than two. More than two becomes a challenge. So maybe you have a hard time with words. So this was words. Now I'm going to show you the same thing, not using words, but using an image. If you plotting your consumers and you get this, and you say, you know what, these are our consumers. Each one of these is 100,000. Each dot is 100,000. How can we plot that? Then you plot them and you say, if we look at it, there's three characteristics. This is based on their age. So we have 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. Each one of the round is an age and a color. So if we use age, we get three groups. So therefore, we have three targets. Who are we going to focus on? We're only going to focus on the purple. But then you say, let's add another one. Beside their age, we also put gender. So when we put the age, the 20 to 30 with gender, is we have this green and red. 30 to 40, we have the purple and the orange. And then the 40 to 50 is we have the gray and the green. So that's what segmentation is about, is plotting people and trying to find groups and trying to find special needs that they have. Here's another map. This map shows that on the left side, you have the segmenting. In the middle, you have the targeting. And then on the right, you have the positioning. In fact, this is inside the files. Remember at the beginning of this class, you asked me, where can we find review guides? I created this file. It is in your canvas in the files. And it shows you how you do STP. So you have characteristics of segmentation, which is age, benefit, usage, loyalty, and so forth. And then you group these into multiple groups and you give them a name. If you look on the internet, it's super trendy right now. When people do STP, they say we're going to do persona analysis. Persona analysis is the same thing as STP. It's just a less fancy word because STP sort of scares away the bystanders. So someone created a simple word that doesn't scare people away, and they call it persona. So persona identification equals STP, and it's just a simple word not to scare people away. So these are the personas, and it's very clear because I give them a name. So target 1 is called the warrior, the target 2, the cheapo, target 3, the busy bee, and the target 4, chicabella. So they have a name, and then that personify who you're going to try to focus on. And then you're going to have to find an attribute and a slogan. That's how you create slogan. You think about the attribute of what the warrior is going to worry. And what do they want? They want performance and trust. That's the two attributes. So it's like plus performance, plus trust, minus trust. So they're going to be in the quadrant with more trust, more performance. How are you going to create the slogan? I don't know. It's going to be, I can't believe it works. And that slogan is going to stick to them. They hear the slogan, I can't believe it works. And they are tough, sort of worried people. They can't believe things. And this is actually telling them, I can't believe it's butter. I can't believe whatever, right? So this concludes, I think I'm done the class on the STP. Do you have any questions?
Makes sense, Professor. Thank you.